President Bola Tinubu launches expatriate employment levy, targets more employment opportunities and revenue.
CBN hikes interest rates to check inflation.
NTA intercepts largest consignment of heroin at Lagos airport. Arrest 4 cartel members.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on implementation of the Oronsaye report.
"13 years ago, a 7-member presidential committee led by former head of service, Stephen Oronsaye, was set up to advise government on how to restructure and rationalize federal government agencies, parastatals, and commissions.
Indeed, the team submitted its report a year later after studying and reviewing previous reports and records on restructuring to ascertain their relevance. They were guided by enabling acts of federal agencies, parastatals, and commissions.
Several white papers have been released over the years on this report with no actions taken. Well, just 2 days ago, the Federal Executive Council approved the Oronsaye report with plans to implement parts of the report.
And the government explained that this process will involve the merging, subsuming, and scrapping of agencies with similar functions to enhance efficiency in the federal service and reduce the cost of governance.
You're right, Victor. The report recommended that 263 agencies under the federal government should be reduced to 161, while 38 of these should be scrapped and 14 relocated to departments and ministries.
And to match words with action, a committee of 8 is currently working on this implementation process, which is due in 12 weeks. The team is to develop frameworks to meet the necessary legislative amendments and administrative processes for an efficient exercise.
And members of the committee include Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Head of the Civil Service, Attorney General and Justice Minister, Budget and Planning Minister, Director General Bureau of Public Service Reform, Special Advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly, while the Cabinet Affairs Office will serve as the Secretariat.
Now, let's give you a sense of what this could translate to, because it implies that several federal government agencies will be scrapped, while some will be merged. For instance, among those to be merged is the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, the FRCN, which is to be merged with the Voice of Nigeria, VON, and known as Federal Broadcasting Corporation of Nigeria.
Also, several other agencies will be relocated. 2 of such are the National Agricultural Land Development Agency, NALDA, which is being relocated to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, while the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, is to be converted into an agency and transferred to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Well, Debola, it may interest you to note that Nigerians are still trying to understand details of the approved parts of the report. And we have a panel of guests joining us shortly to give us more details on how the Stephen Oronsaye report will be implemented. And it is on that note that I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Victor. Azo, thank you for joining us.
Yes, I am also Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for joining us. We are transmitting live on the network service of the NTA here in Abuja. You're welcome back. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. As a prompt to our conversation, let's take this background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, inaugurated the Presidential Committee on the Rationalization and Restructuring of the Federal Government Parastatals, Commissions and Agencies. Leading that committee was the former head of service, Stephen Oronsaye. The committee came up with an 800-page document that recommended the scrapping and merging of 220 out of the then existing 541 government agencies. Now, 13 years down the line, at the Federal Executive Council meeting, the report was dusted and resurrected after being revisited and rejected by previous administration. But this time around, there is the firm and determined plan for its implementation. The report had recommended the reduction of statutory agencies from 263 to 161, as well as the abolition of 38 agencies, the merger of 52, and the reversion of 14 to departments in ministries. For example, just to mention a few, Pension Transmission Arrangements Directorate, PTAD, to be scrapped and functions to be taken over by the Federal Ministry of Finance. NACA and NCDC are to be merged. Servicom to become a department under the Bureau for Public Service Reform. NAUDA to return to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. The Directorate of Technical Cooperation in Africa and Directorate of Technical Aid Corps to be merged under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Also, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission to become an agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Federal Radio Corporation and the Voice of Nigeria to be one entity to be known as the Federal Broadcasting Corporation of Nigeria. Now, how effective would this be in achieving better governance? Also, would there be a new salary scale for the newly merged agencies? And is there the plan of the uniformity in salaries and enumeration of civil servants? These are some questions expected to be answered by guests already seated in the studio.
Right, so Yemi Ajayi, thank you very much for that background there. And to begin our conversation, let's introduce our guests for today. Joining us here in the studio is Victor Mayomi, former director, BPSR and Reform Champion. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. And we have also been joined here in the studio by Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political economist and public affairs analyst. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
And also joining us from Lagos is Mr. Bayo Onanuga, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, sir.
Good morning. I'm happy to join your program.
Let me stay with you, Mr. Onanuga. The question is, it's been 12 years since the Oronsaye team submitted his report, and after several administrations, President Bola Tinubu is now doing the needful. Many people have commended the president for taking the political will, taking the bull by the horn. And what do you make of this action by the federal government?
My reading of it is very simple. This is a decision that ought to have been taken 12 years ago. And President Goodluck Jonathan, who actually set up the Oronsaye panel, made an effort in 2014 by publishing a white paper on the Oronsaye report. But the administration lacked the will to implement the report, the white paper. And following that, in 2021, I think President Buhari also set up a panel, I think led by then SGF, Mr. Boss, Mustafa, to also look at that same report. And then published a white paper in 2022, August 2022. Again, it was left, the recommendations were not implemented. And then since President Tinubu came on board, he's been harping on the need for Nigeria to reduce its current expenditure. It's quite huge. If you look at this year's budget, for instance, it's about 7% more than what was allocated to it in 2023. And it will keep expanding. But as we speak today, the National Assembly keeps creating more institutions, more agencies, more parastatals. I think the latest one I heard on television was that they were creating the Southeast Development Commission. We keep creating them, and we keep ballooning the federal government agencies and parastatals. And that's why the decision last week on Monday was decisive to try to arrest the increasing expenditure we are making on government agencies. It's getting too much. There will be no money for other things to be done. People should not forget that the government itself is just a subset of what government needs to focus on. We need to focus on how to develop about 250 million people, and not just the civil service or the public service, which is just less than 1% of the responsibility of the federal government of Nigeria. That's why I see that's why the President Tinubu took, and the Federal Executive Council on Monday took this bold step to implement the Oronsaye report. It has gathered dust for too long, and the provisions are good for our country, and then the need for us to reduce public expenditure on government itself.
Okay, thank you, sir. But we also understand that a team is on ground to develop a framework to address the necessary issues in the area, to address in the area of legislation and administration. What more can you tell us about the team?
The team has a 12-week framework to fine-tune the decision made about the agencies, some that need to be scrapped, some that need to be subsumed to others, and some that need to be relocated, and some that need to be abolished altogether. So that's what the team is going to do. And they have a 12-week framework to do it. I think by a single bill, executive bill to the National Assembly, to cancel all the laws setting up those agencies affected, you just do the magic. Just one bill, it can be done. And that's why I believe that 12 weeks is enough to do this thing, and then to also know what will happen to the staff, some that we transfer to other agencies, because the government is not actually doing this thing to retrench people. It still wants to retain the staff. And but when you look at the budget of many agencies, it's not just ordinary recurring that really is the problem. Each agency will come every year, they want to do capital projects and all kinds of things. And if you look at the budget itself this year, even the one this year, where we have about 9 billion for capital expenditure, the whole money is not going to the Ministry of Works or Housing. All agencies have one capital project or the other. They want to buy computer, they want to do this and that. And all these things, we really need to cut it off and really direct public expenditure to what it's supposed to be. I mean, to take care of our people, to do projects that will enhance commerce, that will enhance agriculture, that will, focus on the things that we need to do to develop this country.
So, Bayo Onanuga, thank you very much for your opening remarks. We'll get back to you in the course of this conversation. Let me get back here in the studio and go to Victor Mayomi. Now, you aware of the BPSR. Are you proud of the steps that government is taking at the moment as a reform champion?
Well, let me just correct one little error in my intro. I wasn't a director in the BPSR, I was a foundation staff. So we started from the outset.
Okay.
Foundation staff. And we actually drove the reform process of the Obasanjo administration, and I had the privilege of serving before heads of service as technical assistant on reforms. So I played some considerable role in the reform process. The president needs to be commended because, number one, this is courageous, and then we have clarity. But I think that I said to myself with a number of the points made by Ebon Ononuga. But the bottom line is this, that we need to ask ourselves the very first question: how do we get to this stage, this messy situation in the first instance? You have a public service that you have total chaos, gross indiscipline, lawlessness, impunity. You have gatekeepers who actually abandon their responsibility. You have ministers who are to provide policy guidance who abandon their responsibility. You have the office of the central government are supposed to coordinate these agencies administratively, and that was not done. So we created agencies and we left them as orphans, and they were doing whatever they liked. How about the culture of impunity in terms of our procurement process? Because you see, when you are talking about the cost of governance, we have just instituted a culture of chaos and lawlessness. And you see, the truth is that if we don't get the fundamentals right, we will continue repeating all these mistakes. The public service is a place where you come to a place of humility. Nobody is above the rules and regulations, even including the president. The president can be challenged. The president has to obey the rules and regulations. So well, if you have a system where there's total chaos, where you have a culture of incompetence in leadership, then you have all this. So I'm really excited that the president has taken this decision. But the important thing is that, are we now going to look at these deeper issues? And then, how are you even going to manage this process? I had Ononuga, but we must also balance speed and thoroughness. Because I'm not even too comfortable about the people the president has considered to even drive this process. What was the experience? Have they really done something like this before? Do they have the humility to talk to people who are knowledgeable in this system, to be able to provide guidance?
But you wouldn't be able to know that. They may not have done something like that before, but the humility to talk to people, you can't gauge by looking at their faces.
I am not saying all these things, but they are necessary. The important thing is that the president needs help. And what we really need to do right now is to mobilize every expertise, every knowledge, resources across the country to be able to help the president. But what I'm just saying is that, you see, the way you manage this process is very important. Because we have been used to all this kind of maybe reports, and then government attempt to maybe streamline things and do in the past. But they have tended to be what I called Jensimi syndrome. That means when people make a lot of noise, we want this, and then, okay, let me just do this to keep people quiet. But have we been thorough in the way we have done these things? Because you see, the truth is that, you see, when you merge agencies of government or maybe ministries, if an agency or a ministry is supposed to die, let it die. Bury it. And let the people know that it's buried and gone for good. And that's why we're also in this world now. We'll fulfill our mission and then we'll go. Can you imagine a situation in which if everybody who had lived over time were to be in this world? We are complaining about hunger now. Even the hunger will multiply. Are you getting? So you see, there are big decisions. There must be a complete paradigm shift. Because you see, let me also tell you, how did we get into this messy situation? Because we did not consolidate on the reform that Obasanjo initiated. We dropped the ball. But it would have been a seamless process because, you see, during Obasanjo, we were really restructuring ministry. The next thing was go to the agencies. But when President Obasanjo left, we did not really focus on what was really necessary. Look at the Bureau of Police. The last time the Bureau actually was very vibrant was under his partner, Director General. Ever since, the Bureau has been a shadow of itself. So these are the issues that we really need to address. The issue is that, do we want a paradigm shift or we want to continue with our usual Bajen-Sini syndrome?
Okay. All right. But I just wanted to follow up quickly with him. Now, government has hinged this action largely on cost of governance. And I wonder, apart from displacing one CEO here and there, because by the time you merge, only one person can head an agency, you know, you have to let one go. Is there so much to save from this process?
Well, let's see, number one, when you go into reform literature, cost-cutting measures have never really worked. You know, when you see, even in Africa, when the World Bank came to Ghana, you go to maybe, if you have 10 minutes, they cut it to 3. If you have 3, they bring it to 2. And it never worked. We did all these things. Cost cutting, that's what I'm saying. Cost is integral. You don't have to go to reform before you cut cost. What I'm saying is that, for example, see, in our system, why maybe if people sit down, maybe there will be 100 contracts in the ministry, you award to 5 people who are not qualified. But you see, it's process driven, it's not integrity driven. Are you getting? So these are when you go into reform literature, cost cutting measures have not really succeeded. What has been advised over time is that value addition. You had value addition measure. And see, my concern is that you have told Nigerians that you are trying to keep jobs. See, why should people who are unproductive be on their jobs? We have gone away from a civil service where somebody spends 35 years doing nothing and then is paid. You know, let me give are we really reflecting that we have a crisis in the country? You have an education sector that's not been able to run that sector efficiently over years. You had an health sector that is not delivering. You have an agricultural sector that is not delivering. So why are we paying public servants? Public servants are supposed to provide solutions to the challenges of the nation, not to construct themselves into a nuisance. And that's what has been over the year. The president comes and says, I have a vision, a very large vision. It's the responsibility of the public service to shape that vision, not to be complaining and be asking. So these are the things that we really need to deal with. Right. And I believe that, I really hope that the president is really mindful of some of these things. It must be a complete paradigm shift. And in any case, see, if people are not productive, let them go. There are thousands of our young boys and girls roaming about now. And bring them into the system. So you see, you may be cutting, and then you'll be hiding in these cases. So that's the thing. You need to balance this thing. You see, the president should not embark on a popularity contest. He is not elected to be popular. He's elected to do what is right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayomi. The president is not elected to be popular,
Absolutely.
but to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
That's actually very vital. Let's bring in Dr. Amisu here into the discussion. So far, a lot of issues have been raised. And one of the issues is the issue of consolidation and continuity, which President Tinubu has actually demonstrated with this political will to implement the Oronsaye report. I want to have your own thoughts on this implementation, and also, how do you think this report should be implemented?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your question. I want to say that as a nation, we are just mere jokers that don't even know what governance is all about and what it means to produce efficient and effective public servants that will provide solutions to national challenges. And what we've been doing over time is to incubate problems, because we use these problems to justify increases in yearly budget allocation. So, for instance, since 1960 to date, we are not able to increase our power stock. Year in, year out, we cry that there is no power supply, and we use it as a justification to create more agencies, to allocate more funds, duplicating functions and responsibilities, using it as a patronage system to reward political appointees, sons-in-laws and daughters-in-laws, and all of those that are affiliated to them. So, as my brother said, in the final analysis, there is no value addition but value subtraction. In such a situation, the funds are gone, the challenges keep staring us at the face. I give you an example. By 1980, we have the equivalent of Boko Haram, which is Metes-Ini in Kano. The same socio-economic challenges that produce Boko Haram in 2009 was the same socio-economic condition that produced Metes-Ini. And Anyagolu was empaneled to look at the issues that led to the emergence of Metes-Ini. And he did a very thorough job. There was a report to that effect and what needed to be done to forestall something like that from happening. What happened? From 1980 to 2009, there was a repeat. Which country does this apart from Nigeria? I give another example. By 1945-46, there was going to be a revolution in Europe, especially in Britain, because that was the firmament or the peak of the ideological fight between Russia and the capitalist world led by America and Britain then. And that communist revolution led to the empanel of Lord Beveridge to look at issues in Britain that may likely lead to uprising that will make them to accept communism in Britain. And he came. He said we need to deal with 5 evils: poverty, squalor. Yeah, you know about 5 of them. 5 of them: ignorance, squalor, poverty, and I forgot, there are other 2. In simple, clear terms, he said, if we don't solve these problems, not in the future, but right now, then we have uprising to contend with in Britain. And that was the birth of the welfare system in Britain that is still surviving up to today. So education became government-driven, healthcare delivery, jobs, and that is why if you're out of job, the state will support you for a while until you get another job. And as soon as you get another job, they withdraw that support. But that every citizen must add value to the system in a consistent manner. But preparing you to be able to add value is the sole responsibility of Britain. And from there, every other country, including America, decided to do what? Decided to integrate social system into their own, because it was survival of the fittest and the elimination of the unfit. But they now realize that before the unfit will die, then they will take the rich along with them. So what do? So, okay, let us get from the rich and invest in the poor. This is problem solving. Now, when you come back to Nigeria, all the institutions, vibrant institutions that were handed over by our founding fathers to us, we could not manage. The one they built, we destroy. The one we said we want to build cannot stand the test of time. Go to our communities. Today, you see bulldozers grading the roads. And then next tomorrow, they put asphalt. By 3 days' time, you go there, those asphalt are washed away. And then they are now going to request for what? And what they do in developed countries, okay, every road has lifespan. So the road, for instance, from Nyanya to the city center has been constructed, and it will take 15 years max. That is lifespan. By that 15 years, the one that is leading to Kuje is being constructed. The one that is leading to Gwagwalada is receiving attention. The one that is leading to Kaduna is receiving attention. So that by the time they are finishing, they are coming back in the next 15 years to. But I tell you, go use the road from the city gate to Kogi. They've not finished constructing the road. That road is dead already. And then we have FEMA, we have Federal Ministry of Works. Yet our roads are full of potholes. In fact, you only select the potholes you want to enter. It's not as if there is any option. You select. So what we're saying is, you cannot have agencies, multiple agencies, and then the problems are not solved. It's a mark of insanity.
Absolutely.
You have ICPC, for instance. By design, ICPC ought to have finished the work of corruption in this country by design. But for whatever reasons, we stepped on ICPC, make sure that we push it into the mud, and we came with EFCC. They are still doing the same function. Then we came with Bureau of Asset Declaration. What is
Code of Conduct.
Code of
Code of
Conduct
Conduct Bureau.
of Bureau. The same thing. Then the court. All. Then we have the CID, the popular CID, those days that were very effective before all these shenanigans started. And then we continue to fight over tough. As he said, you know why they fight? They will never collaborate to work. They will never. It's about justification for more funds. And who spends the money and on what. So anytime there is interministerial committee on anything in this country, I know it's not going to work. It's going to die. The only thing they will produce is reports. Because when it comes to the nitty-gritty of doing the job, it is then Ministry A will now know that I'm the one that owed the money. So I'm looking at the rest of you around the table. So if you don't go look for your money, that is your monkey. And that is why we have too many agencies and nothing is happening. Immigration is about borders. The same immigration added to customs. Police, when you are going to Benin Republic, you see all of them along the road.
Even though customs has become more of a revenue generating agency now.
Tactically they've done that. But again, they are around the borders. That is not stopping contrabands and smuggling. So what are we doing as a nation if the institution of government and governance are not performing the functions and responsibilities for which they are established to perform? Now, this issue of merging is a different thing entirely. We are talking about the functionality of these institutions first,
Absolutely.
before we come to merging or no merging. You can merge, good. It may save cost. Yeah, we may
Only
be
the
lucky.
CEOs.
Yes, it will reduce the CEOs. But that is even at federal level. There was a time that a sitting governor appointed over 200 SAs.
1,000.
So I was wondering, how will he be able to govern the state? How much of time will it take him to listen to these SAs? Now, the
Does he
essence of
listen
it,
to them?
when we dug into it, they said it was a poverty alleviation strategy by the governor. So assuming each of these persons will be paid, say, 50,000 naira monthly times 200,000. And then you have police that will push its van before it starts. You have police that are going to black market sellers to look
Okay,
for
Dr.
fuel
Amis,
before they fill their cars.
you have given us the details of all these the decay
Yes.
in the system.
Yes.
Now, the decision by the government now, what is your thought? I mean, how do you see it? Are we in the right direction now?
All right. So thank you very much.
Because it is important.
Yes.
There is so much duplication.
Yes.
So this is the duplication the government is trying to curtail.
Yes.
So that it can bring more efficiency into the system.
Yes.
So how do you think government should go about it?
Well, for me, it's a right step in the right direction. If we are really concerned that we have a crisis in Nigeria that we need to solve. You see, my dad wrote something on the wall those days, though we never knew the meaning until when we were growing up. He said, the greatest calamity that can befall a man is self-deception. Anybody can deceive you, but when you deceive yourself, then you become deceived by the person that wants to deceive you. We have two issues at hand. One, the functionalities of these institutions. And what has led to that situation is our craving to satisfy our personal interest in public spaces that are supposed to work for the public. That is what we call corruption. Now, streamlining these institutions will have the following value addition. One, it will reduce the number of CEOs and the numbers of SAs that goes with the CEOs and number of abuses that go into the system and the fight, the tough war that usually happen. I remember there was a time a job supposed to be done, and there was a fight between the agencies, NEMA and the Refugees Commission. the Refugees Commission said by design, because it is how they designed the entire thing was, NEMA will take care of the affected persons for 6 months. Then Refugees Commission will take over. But again, everybody wants to say, I am working. So if we take away the people I'm working on for 6 months, then what is left of me? So it usually becomes a fight. So when you go to National Assembly, you are presenting budget for the same persons. So yours is for 6 months, mine is for eternity. So, so even the incentive to close the camps and even do durable solution will not be there, because I need them to stay to be able to function. So for me, it is not about merging, for instance. Yes, it's a good thing. The president has assured Nigerians and he has put up committee to do that. It's always the case in Nigeria. There will be committees. These committees will sit. They will make recommendations. What he said, white papers here, white papers there. What came out of it? Nothing. So what we are saying is, beyond the fact that the president has assured us, he has put in place committees that are supposed to work on this, we must go beyond that to do the needful. As he said, the period of reform is always painful. And as we are in this nation today, there are no easy fixes. Anybody that tells you that we are going to get it easy, that person is lying to you and is lying to the nation, because we've dragged our feet for so long for whatever considerations. Decisions that we needed to take 20 years ago, we did not take them.
So we're just taking them now.
So we are just trying to take them now. Not that we are taking them now, we are just trying to take them now. So for me, I will commend the president for having the courage to even look at the report, to put in place this committee until such a time that we will see the committee actually doing the work, and then we will come back to this studio to say kudos to Mr. President, because we are seeing the impact of what you said you are going to do. But that, because he put up, didn't President Goodluck Jonathan that started the Oronsaye report process, gave us white paper. My brother from Dawara, didn't he empanel some people and then they came out with white paper? What came out of it? That is this problem we are facing in this country. Until we see it on the ground.
Dr. Abu Hamisu, thank you very much. I hope you'll be more optimistic.
You know, the problems are not even making me to be optimistic until we see.
It's okay.
But
That's what I want to.
The government is taking now.
It's a right step in the right direction.
Yeah,
So baby steps, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
I want to see more of it.
Let me get to Bayo Onanuga, who has joined us via Zoom. Mr. Onanuga, now you have spoken a lot about the incumbent government's political will. You have also talked about, not wanting anyone to lose his or her job. You've also talked about this being about cutting costs of governance. I'm a bit confused here. I'm not sure all of these can go together. Political will, jobs being kept, and reducing cost of governance. In fact, every week in, week out, a bill passes, an establishment bill is passed at the National Assembly. How do you intend to make this work with all of this entangled?
I think they can be, all these issues you are raising can be taken all together. See, when you look at the budget of agencies, it's not just, as I said, it's not just about paying personnel and things like that. There are other things that they ask for. Each ministry or each agency is always asking for capital projects here and there. So it means by the time you bring them together, you match some, you subsume some, or you scrap some, that line of cost will disappear, will not be in the budget anymore. So you can save money to do some other things that are useful to the mass of our people, the over 200 million Nigerians that are always crying for government attention. So I think this is just the first step. I mean, as the panelists have said, the president and his cabinet, we need to commend them for taking this bold step. The Oronsaye report has been on the shelf for 12 years, and the other leaders have tried to shy away from implementing this report, which I believe is the contents, the recommendations are good for our country. So this is the first step. Let's not prejudge what the panel that has been set up, led by the SGF, to implement the recommendations. Let me also correct that the government is not saying it's implementing everything that Oronsaye recommended. They've just picked some. I'm sure maybe over the next few years, they look at the report again and see, and then make some further moves to make sure that we don't continue to waste public money on the public service, because we have the people of Nigeria to really take care of. So I agree with the panelists. There's need for Nigeria to make a paradigm shift, as well as Mr. Mayomi said, and Dr. Amisu. We really need to do something. We really need to cut waste. It's very, very important, as we are facing very more challenging situations in our country. And this should apply not just to the federal government, even to the state. There are many state governments, all they do is to pay salaries. And they have their constituents to take care of. And they're not doing it. And that's why we're having the problems we are having today in our country, whereby everybody is looking at the federal government. What about the state government? What about local councils? Why did we create the council in the first instance? 774 of them. Why did we create 36 states? If not that we created them to take care of the people living under their jurisdiction. But we keep shifting all the responsibilities to the federal government. And I think our nation should really take a departure from this, and let the government at all levels, at all tiers of government, really face the business of governance. I look at the last allocation of revenue, and I just did a quick summary. I find that what goes to the subnationals and the local councils, what they get is actually more than what the federal government gets. It's about 60 to 40. Because by the time they say the federal government collects 48% or 52%, but when you look at the figures, all the money that the states and the councils collected in the last revenue allocation is actually more than what the federal government collected. And those states and the councils are always waiting for federal government to do their work for them. All this should stop. This is where I think the paradigm shift to actually begin. Let the states and the councils assume their role as conceived by their creators. I think I will stop there for now.
Okay, Bayo Onunuga, I want to still stay with you now. We want to find out the process of implementing the report. In what phases will it be?
The committee has been given the responsibility to implement, to not even to go and implement. They are not coming back to the council to say this is what they have done. They've already been told, go and implement. And they are going to go and implement. They know what they have to do. A lot of, if an agency, look at, for instance, an agency like we have VOM in Jos, National Veterinary Agency that is in Jos. Then this country again created one, specifically meant for trypanosomiasis or something, elephantiasis, to treat elephantiasis. When we have VOM, that's about all veterinary issues. And we still created another one. And the same thing, look at what we have in our own industry. We have VON, and we have Federal Radio. And the suggestion that they should come together. VON can operate as a subset of Federal Radio. And that's why these are the things. I think all this need to assimilate some, to bring some under the same canopy. I think they are achievable. There are things that the committee is going to work out to make sure that we realize all these things. So it will not be an easy task, but I think the time frame they have for them, this will be possible.
Bayo Onunuga, thank you again for your contribution. Let me get back to Mr. Victor Mayomi. How would you suggest, from your tapping into your experience at the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, how would you suggest implementation to make it really, really count? For instance, if you are merging, let's say you are taking NIDCOM, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. How do you intend to accommodate the staff? How NIDCOM, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, how do you intend to accommodate?
Under finance now.
No, the Foreign Affairs.
Under Foreign Affairs.
Okay.
Now, if you are taking it to Foreign Affairs, how do you intend to accommodate it under the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and what gains do you seek to get from there, whether in terms of efficiency and or in terms of cost cutting? How would you suggest that it be implemented?
Well, you see, the number one, I have some level of confidence in the committee set up, because ideally the Secretary to Government of the Federation should be the one leading this process as the chairman of the Standing Committee on Reforms. Maybe this process would have been easier if the reforms governance structure had been activated over the years. But over the years, the reform governance structure to really maybe direct all these processes has not really been activated. It has been dead for a while. And then number three, my own challenge is that, you see, we're really trying to, because we need to refrain from seeing this as an isolated intervention and maybe putting in the larger picture. Because, for example, right now, we are talking about restructuring, devolution of powers. And then maybe some people in the National Assembly are now talking about maybe approving development commissions for each of the CG political zones. I'm from the Southwest. I feel embarrassed that anybody will take maybe a bid to the National Assembly asking for a development commission for the Southwest. To me, it's an aberration. It's completely unnecessary. So, and even with this government right now, it would be helpful to really see Mr. President's vision, maybe his plan about public service transformation. So all these things will be implemented within the context of this administration reform plan. Not that we are doing piecemeal intervention, rather by being organic and holistic in what we are doing. But you see, that's something. If you want a parallel shift, you see, what will the president or what the Oronsaye is trying to achieve beyond cost cutting is to have various institutions. So if you feel that you are maybe taking one agency under a ministry, whether it's a department or maybe an agency to provide, so what we mean that you make sure that it's fit for purpose. You mean that the people the staffing process is efficiently undertaken. You make sure that the competent person is appointed to lead it, and you also make sure that the ministry itself does not really encumber it from doing his job. But what you have in many instances is that you have a general who takes over the property of a corner, and then it's encumbered. It doesn't really work. So what I'm just saying is that, you see, you need, beyond just margin, you also need a governance process that will oversee this and make sure the right things are done. And beyond that, see, I won't mention them now. The government is bringing, okay, say maybe one entity should come and join another entity. And to me, the two of them are partially dead. So, and what is going to happen right now, that the one that's even the one that is even more dead is the one that will now take over the one that will solo. So those are the kind of things, because you see, I think the luck we have in Nigeria, we have a president who is who is bold, who is committed, and who wants to do the right thing. So what we need to do is that we have to put up administrative processes to ensure that we can actually support the president to achieve his goals. And that we also need to interrogate who are the people around the president. Who are his thinkers? Are they conversant with what we are talking about? Do they know the complications and the challenges and the integrity that need to be able to really address all these multi-dimensional issues? So those are the issues, because you see, the president cannot know everything. But the issue is that we also need to interrogate who are the people around the president. Are they really system person? Do they really understand what we are trying to see? Or we are just trying to do something to pacify Nigerians and maybe move on to the next something? Because the president needs help. If you don't address all these concerns, the president will continue to be challenged. So these are the, see, once you do according to laid down principles, and you add integrity to the process, where, see, you want to do something that's in the public interest, you want to do something that is right, you want to do something that when you are in the grief, even you will be satisfied that you have your peace. Once you are ready to do that, definitely, because you see, see, what may probably happen right now is that some very influential person now may be trying to reach out to the president, reach out to the people around the president, even circumvent this kind of thing. We have been seeing, and we say, okay, let's put this pressure on the president. Let's make sure that he doesn't have peace until maybe when he's very close to election, so that he will not have maybe he will have any choice than to do what we have already been doing. Let's have a complete paradigm shift. Let's a complete paradigm shift.
But I just wanted to add, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that it's the one, like you said, an agency that is even more dead takes over the one that is a bit alive. I want to recall that Standard Trust Bank acquired the bigger, much bigger UBA.
Absolutely.
You know, so sometimes it takes that fusion to strengthen. It's not in all cases that this one, it may bear the name of A, but you know, they become stronger together.
But in your case right now, you see, give it to Elumelu now. He developed UB into a monster.
Okay.
So that's why we are saying, you are talking about capacity, you are talking about competence, you are talking about somebody who can do the
so
job.
It will be about who is in charge and what do they do.
See, definitely David can swallow Goliath.
So now we agree.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Hamisu into the conversation again. Well, he has raised some issues, and some people have actually said that some of the issues then in 2012 that warranted this report would have changed. You understand? And if the committee to implement this report now, they have to take into consideration the changes that has occurred, you know, during the process. And also, some people have suggested that even the man behind the report itself, Oronsaye, should also be invited to be part of the committee so that it can throw a better light into the implementation process. What is your thought about that?
Well, for me, it's a very wise advice saying that government should bring in the man that is behind the report. For the fact that there is what is always referred to as institutional memory. The man that started a factory understands perfectly well the crisis he has been managing, up to the point that he may want some persons to come and invest, or some persons want to acquire. And that is why in every sane society, foundational members are not thrown overboard, because they are there simply because they started the process, and they can answer some questions that you may not be able to fathom. For instance, if the question is asked, why did you want to undertake this process? As my brother said, that beyond merging, there was something behind it, which is the agility and efficacy of these institutions to deliver. So it's not because they want to cut cost. He said no,
Per se.
but value addition. Okay. Now, if not somebody that was there from the very beginning, nobody can give you this. But what Nigerians are relating with today is cost of governance, and they want to cut costs, and that is why they want to merge and relocate and whatever. But he said beyond all of these, and one of the fundamental challenges that will come, which I'm very sure even this committee will request for additional time beyond the 12 weeks the president has given them. Now, we know in Nigeria that people run away from the ministries because of the pay. People scramble, fight, lobby, and do all sorts of things. Commission prayers to go to agencies because agencies are paying more. Now, if you are now taking, say, the Diaspora Commission to Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, The first fundamental challenge that will arise is the placement. What is the cadre system in NIDCOM? And what is the cadre system
At the Ministry.
at the ministry? And then they will tell you that the people in the ministry are senior, for instance, to those that are coming from NIDCOM. So how are they going to work out a seamless cadre for these persons? That is one challenge. Not where they will occupy in the building. No, there will be space. And the second challenge will be the salary structure. As I said earlier on, the agencies pay more compared to the ministries. Now, will the government ask those that are coming from the commission to accept the salary structure of the ministry, which will amount to maybe a cut in their own pay, or that they upscale
the ministries to that of the
to that of the these are some of the challenges. Then the other one will be who heads the unit, the department, or the new place. Because as I said, you cannot have two CEOs. Everybody has a green pen for approval. So whose pen will be taken away? Because the entire English, the entire grammar is procurement process. So these are some of the challenges that will arise. You easily say we've made this just the way it's on paper. But coming to the implementation about the cadre, promotion, assessment, benefits, and salaries. So this may lead to a situation, and the situation will be whether the federal service will have a seamless salary scale for all cadre of civil servant, depending on your discipline and the kind of work you do. For instance, somebody in CBN that is occupying a managerial cadre is taking like 500,000 per month. Somebody in Ministry of Defense that is equally responsible for defending the country and the central bank is taking 150,000. By the time they deduct housing, it goes on with about 110,000. So these are some of the issues, and that is why you see, once there is advert,
somebody in information.
Yes, somebody in information. Thank you.
Dishing out
information
to ensure that
who works day in, day out, no weekend, no public holiday.
80,000 naira, and somebody somewhere that is just a media assistant to a minister is flying all over the place as if you offended God by accepting to work for government information. So what we are saying is simple, and this is the challenge. Once there is advert in NNPC today, there is advert in. There was a time there was advert in NNPC. Their system crashed more than 4 times because people are leaving other jobs to these institutions because they believe it is the most lucrative. And what that does is that it takes away the competent people that are equally adding the little value that we are seeing in the federal parastatus. So that again will be another issue for us to consider. And that is why I agree with him that the process should not be a mere intervention, a flash in the pan. That okay, we are going to implement Oronsaye. What we needed is a seamless governance reform process that this will be a part of. And if we don't get that, then there is a problem. Because as government, the executive will continue to tie the system, the National Assembly will continue to lose the system, as you pointed out, with so many bills. Establishing. So if I have my money to lobby National Assembly, I could say they should take Polytechnic to my village. And then they will pass the bill and they will take the Polytechnic to my village. There was this institution, I don't want to mention it. It is under a federal ministry. This institution has been moribund. It's not functioning, but every year there is appropriation to this institution. And they are spending this money and the institution is presumed dead and buried. So which ghost is swallowing the appropriation? And we have them like that all over.
All right. Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, thank you very much. I would like to get to Bayo Onanuga later, but that will be after this break. Good Morning Nigeria continues afterwards. Thank you very much for rejoining us on Good Morning Nigeria, where we have been discussing the Stephen Oronsaye report on reforms in the public sector. Now, let me get back to Victor. Okay, I understand Bayo is there. Let me get to Bayo Onanuga now to ask, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu spoke of people lobbying to move from one agency to the other, not because they will add better value there, but just because that agency pays more, the benefits are greater. And it really doesn't mean that they do a lot of work there. It's just that the sector might be more lucrative. It's a more lucrative sector or more buoyant sector. Will this government consider leveling up remuneration? It has been mooted in the past. Will this government consider clearing out disparity in salary structure of agencies, and maybe even look at the amount of work that goes in, and not just because a sector is viable or a sector earns more or a sector is lucrative?
The issue I raised is a very important issue. As a Nigerian citizen, I've been bothered about this. Let me say, for instance, I know that in the 70s, if you are a graduate of economics, for instance, you can choose to work either in the CBN or in the Federal Ministry of Finance or Budget and Planning. And in those days, there was no discrepancy between the salary of someone working for CBN or someone working for the ministry. Very small amount of money that relates the president. But today, it's not the same thing anymore. As one of the panelists said, you find people who want to go and work for NNPC because they are paying much more salary, or go and work for the CBN these days, not because they really have anything to contribute to CBN or to the NNPC, but they are just being attracted by the huge salaries and allowances that are being paid by these agencies. This should not be happening. I think this is a duty for government to look at in this process of streamlining things, to look at the salary disparities in all the agencies of government, after they're all government institutions. If I go to school and I have a degree, let's say in chemical engineering, and I happen to find myself in any of the agencies of government, I should really not suffer salary disparity with my counterpart who is working for another government agency. There should be a way of bridging all these gaps so that people can work anywhere and contribute their quota wherever they find themselves. But what you find out today, I said there's too much gap between government workers working for various agencies. We need to bridge this gap, and I think this is something that the government should think about. This government, the Tinubu government, is about reforms. Some of them will be painful reforms, and I think this will be another assignment for the special advisor who's looking at all policies and everything to look at salaries. And I think there's a government agency that's dealing with it that has not been subsumed under the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. These are issues that I think should be on the table. They should be looked at.
Mr. Onanuga, I still want to stay with you because we raised one issue here, that the man actually behind the report, that is Mr. Oronsaye, should also be part of the committee set up by the government so that it will help for the proper implementation of the report. What is your thought on it? Would you advise government, you being part of the government as well?
I didn't get that. Please come again.
The question is that in the studio here, it was raised that Oronsaye who is the man behind the report itself, should be part of the committee, should be a part of the committee for the implementation of the report. You also being a member of the government, would you advise the government on this?
Well, let me say I have no opinion about this. I'm happy that Mr. Oronsaye is still alive, even though he got a bad deal from government when he was dragged to court, humiliated, and so on. Aland is not a very happy man, but I'm sure he'll be very happy that his report has not been buried, and that a new government decided to look at it to see what can be done to really implement those reports. I'm sure he'll be a very happy man that in his lifetime, the report, an 800-page report, is now being implemented. Not everything is being implemented. There's still very large part of it that government has not really looked at. I hope the administration of President Bola Tinubu will have a second look and take on board some of those recommendations that are not in this first segment that the government is trying to implement.
Mr. Ononuga, let's come back to the studio. Mr. Mayom, you want to respond to some of the issues that Dr. Hamisu raised earlier. Let's get a response.
I even maybe
you want to respond?
He has updated this response.
Because, yes, Mr. Steve Oronsaye was also my boss. Definitely, in any ID system, it should be part of the implementation process. But I think that just also to get to know that there were also a number of vibrant people in that committee who could be of help in this process. Dr. Dugukajiguru was the panel, Director General of the Bureau of Public Service Reform. He was a member of that, the panel. Mr. Jaf Nwusu, a very versatile, one of the best civil servants. He was also part of it. And in any case, what are we doing about Yali Ahmed? A former Minister of Defense, a former Head of Service, a former Secretary of the Federation. So these are people who have a lot of experience to share. Even if they are not members of the committee, I think they should be consult. No, even consult with them, and they will. Well, you see, the truth is that Yahya Ahmed managed a process that was a bit very complicated, very difficult, but he was able to use a lot of native intelligence to get things done. It's unfortunate that we didn't get a refined to government. That would be a plus. So there are resources everywhere. So that is really very important, and that's why I said the other time that let's bring. In any case, probably the most embarrassing is that the chairman of the Federal Fiscal Commission is not a member of this committee. But you are talking about establishment issues now, staffing, putting people in the cage. That's the responsibility of the. And Dr. Tunji Olokpa is also a reformer. So I'm surprised that it's not, maybe it's an oversight somewhere. So these are some of the things that we really need to, in terms of salary, I think the normal process is that maybe if an agency is maybe merged with a ministry for some time, but the normal thing we do is that the people earning the higher salary will have their salary kept personal to them until it balances out later. Well, in many instances, you don't reduce their salary. That will send panic in the system. So they keep it on the. It evens out. It will balance out in the course of time. So that's one thing. But for example, you are going to have that challenge in the case of really maybe merging National Broadcasting Commission and NCC. And frankly speaking, if I were to advise government, I think that government should maybe look at that decision again. Because the directive is that it should be matched, but I think that we should look at it and say, are we really taking the best decision in that circumstance? So these are some of the issues that we need to, but I'm very happy with the way government has done but this is about phased implementation. Okay. You are trying to address what is realistic. But you see, once you do this one, you deliver it well, it will inform what we are going to do subsequently. And beyond the agencies, ministries have been created, you have enlarged the number of ministries. What are we doing about that? Are we just leaving entirely to minister, just do this thing the way you, or somebody is really guiding the process? to ensure that, because you see, the bottom line, the end point, we want to build viral institutions fit for purpose that can really deliver on their mandate, that will make, in a very simplest manner, that the president will be able to go to sleep and sleep well. So until we get some of these things right, because we should not be, apart from focusing on and making sure that we do it diligently, we must also help Mr. President support him in getting these enlarged ministries. The number now is a bit massive. That what we are trying to achieve through this, in terms of mergers of agencies, we don't also leave the ministries unattended to. Because you see, the truth is that, and I think I want to advise the president, you see, the truth is that you must get some key sectors right. Education, health, defense, what do you call it too? I mean, of the works, housing, you must get them right. If you get about 15 to 16 to 17 core sectors of government, the country will work.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Amisu. I want to ask, because some people have raised the issue of bureaucratic bottleneck, that when these agencies and ministries are subsumed and merged, there will be a lot of bureaucratic bottlenecks, files staying on the table, and you see a lot of permanent secretary now becoming so much lord and all that. Just recently, was it not last week, that the president met with some of these permanent secretary, the head of service and all that, and just to urge them that, look, I want action. I don't want to be delayed. No, I don't want to be held back. So what advice would you give? Because people are afraid.
I think the solution is simple. I continue saying this. The procrastinations of yesterday are the evil traducers that are digging our footpath today, to the extent that we are not even stable, let alone talking about issues around development. If 12 years ago we've finished all of this, I think we should be building on it and dealing with new challenges. But because there were monies to pay for the irresponsibilities of these agencies, we continue that way. Now the money is not there, so we are being forced by necessity now. And that necessity should force us to address this issue you've talked about. I think the corollary to this very particular reform was e-governance. So where are we? What did we do about e-governance? Some people sabotage it because it will erode their powers, the powers they don't even have in the first place, the powers they are using to kill Nigerians unnecessarily, because the procurement process and the award did not favor their own person. They kept the file in view, in perpetuity. So the money will not be spent. If not, during President Yaradua, that they came with that, I think former President Obasanjo started it. Up to some certain point, if you are not able to spend your money to deliver services to Nigerians, the government will take the money away. If not, we have the culture and impunity of dumping these monies into accounts to be yielding interest, to the extent that they will not use it to work for Nigerians until around November. So November, you see public officials sleeping in their offices to ensure that they exhaust the money within October, November, December, so that they can look for more money during the budgetary cycle. But that has changed now. And with the performance unit, the current administration has set up, is going to force a lot of people to take decisions that will be beneficial to Nigeria. Because if you're not performing, you'll be shown the way out or you'll be replaced. So I think that will be another incentive that will really assist these very particular new agencies that will come under other ministries or other agencies to deliver services to Nigeria. Else, the better thing to do is e-governance. For instance, in international donor-funded organizations, you have your time. Your time for break is 1 to 2 p.m. So you are not even using your phones. Once mail is dropping, the time is recorded. Okay, the mail drop. So you can't keep anything because it is against your personal interest. You can't keep it. You need to do your own bit by furthering the process, forwarding it to the next person that needs to take action. And that is why you see, even the military, there is always some level of efficiency. because it is structured in such a way that they work with time. So 20 persons supposed to be executed at 00 hour on Tuesday. So the 00 hour has been stated. So if I am to give direction to those that will go to armory and take the guns, I'd already given, so the person that needed to pick it to the armory will come and pick it, because if you do not, from the process, they now know who defaulted, and then you'll be punished for that. So if there is that system in place in the civil service, I bet you nobody will add overload the way the permanent secretaries are doing. If it is e-process, the query will be, you received this mail about 5 days ago. Why is it that up to today is still in your possession and nothing is being done, and Nigerians are suffering? But because the system is opaque, there are people that are benefiting from this system, and that is why they are powerful. That is why some permanent secretaries, before you enter their offices, you have to pull your shoes as if you are entering a mosque to show some reverence. Some of them are seated on the couch, you are seated on the floor. Some you needed to even attend their sons and daughters' wedding and even register your presence at Oga Amiel, so that by the time you go to the office tomorrow, that will translate to goodwill and the initial capital that you can cash in on. Also, all of this, you see that it is even informalities that are driving formality in this country. So it is affecting us as a nation to the extent that when the world is moving, I give an instance. I was in Beijing and something happened. All of us from about 47 developing countries were out, we were going to the market in central Beijing. And my late friend, may God bless his soul, pulled me back and said, come, I just observed something. I said, what did you observe? He said, take a look at the Chinese people. They are not working. They are practically running because they want to catch up with time. But all of us from developing countries, it was as if the entire world was waiting for us. Everybody was walking in such a way that we show elegance, and we are coming from poverty.
Even when you walk faster, some people will mock you for it.
Yes, yes. Because time.
They say you're always pacing.
Because you have to meet the bus at a particular point in time. If you don't meet it, you miss it.
In Nigeria, time is nothing to us. We feel the entire world is waiting for us.
I think we have some time, just about enough time to get across to Bayo Onanuga once more. Mr. Onanuga, you like we agreed earlier, efficiency, you're talking about cutting costs and all of that, but from the studio here, a lot has been said about efficiency so that it becomes a total package. How much of efficiency is in the mind of government, and how do you intend to achieve that with all of this?
Well, I think that's the purpose. That's the central purpose of the reform, is to make government more efficient, to deliver on its mandate. That's why the Tinubu administration is doing what it's doing to implement the Oronsaye report. Efficiency is the core. It's at the core of it. It's nothing more than that. The way government is now is too big, and the whole process of the reform is to make government more nimble-footed. I think that's the purpose of it. To make
Special advisor to Mr. President on strategy and information, we thank you very much for your time on the program. And back here in the studio, I don't know, we have just, we may have about 30 seconds for you to round off your thoughts.
We still have about 3-4 minutes, so
okay.
let's have your...
Let's just commend the President for this courageous decision. Let's ensure that Nigerians support him to get the vision delivered. And let's also appeal to the committee that has been set up to really deliver this to our next resources across the board. And let's ensure that we see this not as an isolated intervention, but an integral part of the total package under public service transformation. And beyond that, you see, once the committee comes with an implementation plan, we should learn to incentivize performance and then punish indolence. So I see it's good that we say we should not fire people, but if people are employed and they are not delivering, then definitely, even if we are not firing them, we should not be rewarding them by keeping them on their jobs. So thank you. I think that's...
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayomi. Let's come to Dr. Hamisu. The will to actually, implement whatever the committee comes up with, it's the issue now. And like someone said, he said, it is not the will that matters. Everybody has the will. But what matters is, are you ready to pay the price? Is government ready to really take the bull by the horn? So what's your take on that, your final thought?
You see, unfortunately, as you said, the same will we use to do the wrong things are the same will that's supposed to do the right things. No two wills, it's just one. But what we've developed in this country is the perpetual culture of using the will to do the wrong things. So that if you are doing any little right thing, you become a hero instantly. So for me, the system must survive. And if the system must survive, it doesn't matter the level of sacrifices that are supposed to go into the system. Because failure to right the wrongs of today and to build the institutions that will give us the growth and development of tomorrow will come back to haunt us tomorrow, to the extent that we'll be so confused not to know the right things to do. So for me, I commend Mr. President for initiating this very particular process. I will link the M13 to what former President Babangida said. I was part of those that didn't like what he did with the structural adjustment program and other policies. And he said something. He said, generations yet unborn may forgive us for taking the wrong decisions, but they will not forgive us for not taking decisions at all. Because by taking decisions, the next generation would have learned from our mistakes if they are really willing to learn.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, a political economist and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your contribution on today's discussion. Also, we want to thank Mr. Victor Mayomi, who is also, you said you are not a former director, but you're a member of the foundation staff of the Bureau of Public Service Reforms and Reforms, but you are retired. Thank you so much for your contribution. Well, this is how we, this is where we draw the curtain for on today's conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us tomorrow again for another episode of the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Victor Azo. I wish you a pleasant day. See you tomorrow.